Next up, I want to touch upon one other option available in the Data tab of Power BI, which is the ability to define hierarchies. Now, hierarchies are essentially groups of columns that you nest underneath each other to reflect multiple levels of granularity or detail. So, for example, a common type of hierarchy is a geographical one, and that might include columns like country, followed by state, followed by city. And note that they become more granular, more specific and detailed with each level of the hierarchy. So what's nice about these is that they can actually be treated as a single item in your tables and reports so that users can view the data at the highest level and then drill up or drill down through the different levels of detail in a meaningful way. So one example here is creating a hierarchy with date fields. So what you'd actually do in the data view is drill into your calendar table and you'd right-click a field, in this case, start of year, and select the new hierarchy option from the menu. Now what that does is it creates a brand new field. It doesn't overwrite the existing ones, it creates a brand new one that now contains start of year. And I'll show you what this looks like, but it shows you a very clear icon that indicates this isn't just a regular field, this is a hierarchy that we're dealing with. So then from there, right-click any other fields that you'd like to add, like start of month or start of week or date, for instance. And instead of clicking New Hierarchy, you're going to click Add to Hierarchy and select the date hierarchy or whatever you've named it that has already been created. So this is the method to actually build one of these hierarchies within the data view. So one thing to note here is that I know I'm showing you a hierarchy example with date fields specifically, but Power BI is actually very, very smart about dates. And in fact, it will create a lot of date-related hierarchies for you automatically without having to manually create a set like you see here. But there are other examples where that's not the case, where Power BI won't automatically recognize fields in a hierarchical way, in which case building a set like this is very helpful. So I'm going to show you an example of that right now. Let's head back to our AdventureWorks report, and I'll show you what I mean. All right, so once you've opened up your AdventureWorks report file, you should see the 5 table connections that we have in place. Let's jump into the data view. And for the sake of example here, we're going to create a very simple hierarchy using these territory fields. And this is a good candidate to use here because we've got 3 different fields kind of in descending order of detail or granularity. Continent is the broadest category, followed by country, followed by region. So let's go ahead and start with continent, right-click, create new hierarchy. As you can see, it maintains or preserves that original continent field and adds this new line item with this little icon that indicates that there are subfields within it. In other words, this is a hierarchy, and it's named it by default continent hierarchy since that was the field that I had originally selected. So you can right-click and rename it, and I'm going to call it something like, oops, kind of in the way there, something like territory hierarchy. Okay, so it shifted things around since it's alphabetical order here, and put that territory hierarchy there at the bottom. So the 2 other fields that I want to add to this are country and region. So I can select country, right-click, and add it to that territory hierarchy. Same goes with region, right-click, add. Now it's just nested each of those fields under continent and created this hierarchy containing 3 different levels. If you added them in the incorrect order, like continent, region, country, you can simply click and drag to reorder them around. So now to recap, once we get into the report view and start visualizing things, building charts and graphs, instead of pulling in 3 individual fields for continent, country, and region, we could pull this single hierarchy object into the visual and allow users to drill up or down to these different levels of detail. So a really interesting tool, great way to add more depth to a Power BI report.